is, I don't even know the date. Thank you. September 21st. This is a Planning Commission meeting. First item of business is approval of the report from August 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. And what are your wishes? I have a motion by Mr. Hanson to approve. Second by Mr. Bemke. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Next item is Plan 20-0757 Heartland Custom Home, Inc. Public hearing and action for a conditional use permit to construct a hangar at the Southwood County Airport, Alexander Field, 3611 First Street South, on parcel ID 3413199. Mr. Kearns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have a request to construct a hangar. The airport is a conditional use, and any associated uses with the airport require a conditional use permit if on city property. So in this case, the applicant or the hangar is going on city property. It's identified on the map and in the staff report. And it'll be sandwiched in between two existing hangars just south of the intersection of 2 Mile Avenue and First Street South. And again, shown on the attached plans here. So because of the conditional use permit that's required, we review it with the conditional use permit standards. Again, those standards are provided in full analysis and review within the staff report. Ultimately, it's, the airport currently exists. There are several hangars on the airport already. The current location is about 200 feet from the road. Again, it's between two existing hangars. Staff feels as though it's very fitting for the location and on the property, and therefore would recommend approval. The plans that the applicant has submitted are also attached, and it's, again, very simple construction, as you can see here, with a large door for the aircraft, and then a side-loaded garage door as well, and then a service door.
Thank you, Mr. Kearns. So since this is a public hearing, we can open up the public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor, please make yourself known.
So Bryce Nelson.
Go ahead, Bryce.
Hello.
Hi there, go ahead.
Just making it known if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Obviously, as the staff report said, it's consistent with structures surrounding it.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Mr. Rayon?
Just a question, and maybe I missed it. Is this, because it's on the city property, did this didn't go through the airport commission, did it? And my question is wondering why, because all the hangars that have been done before went through the airport commission.
This went through the airport commission for permission, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, did the airport commission?
I believe at our last meeting we did. Yep.
They did, yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the question I had.
Correct. Anybody else? Go ahead, sir. You wishing to speak in favor? Let's do the public hearing first, and then we can discuss maybe some more questions. So why don't we take care of the? Yep. So we'll take care of that after we do the public hearing. Then we can do questions. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the project? And lastly, anyone else like to speak in favor of the project? Okay, let's take up anybody who wish to speak against the construction of the hangar. Secondly, anyone wish to speak against the construction of the hangar? And for the last time, anybody wish to speak against? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Open it up for questions. Mr. Whitrock? Go ahead, come on up. State your name and address, please. There's a drawing on where it says background. It shows that it's, yeah.
Sorry about that. If you reference the photo on the screen, which is page 14 of 38 of the Plan Commission packet, you'll see where the proposed hangar is. Again, it's located between an existing hangar and to the what would be the west, and 4 hangars of similar size to the east, right here.
Right, so where are they putting this one?
This one's
Exactly,
going,
can I address that?
In the proposed?
correct.
Hangar to the left, or to the west of it, is exactly the same length as this hangar, and we will line up the front of the hangar so that the two of them are exactly the same depth and the same distance from 2 Mile Avenue.
Okay, that was my concern. And then all you see from 2 Mile really is maybe an access door or something. That makes sense? There won't be a hangar door out to 2 Mile.
Correct, it would face the other side.
Be on the south side.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that their approach or the apron would,
Okay, that answers my question.
sounds good. Anybody else have any further questions?
Yes, I do. This is Susan.
Go ahead, Susan.
T.
Yep, go ahead, Susan.
I got bumped out of the Zoom meeting, so I didn't hear most of what happened there. I had some questions with regard to the location of the hangar and also some of the building specs for the building itself, and you may have answered them, so you can stop me if you need to. I was out there today, and there's a excavation for footings. Is that the proposed current site, or is that, do you know?
That is a different site.
So
the proposed-
was that your previous site?
That was the previous site for the aircraft hangar owner. He wanted to be in the city and was apparently unaware that the hangar to the west of us is in the city and there's city property available for his hangar.
Okay, so the situation with that excavation for the footing, what's happening to that? What's going on there?
That'll be filled back in pending your approval and reseeded. That was just a grass area.
Okay, I have some other questions with regard to the plan that you submitted for the building itself. You've got a, I don't know the page exactly, but it shows an attic space. Let's see what page is that.
If there is correct.
Sheet 5 of your drawings shows an elevation for the attic space.
Mm-hmm.
What is the intended use of that attic space?
I believe storage.
It has only one entrance exit. Have your plans been approved by the state?
This went through the engineering, Halberg Engineering, so I am not sure about whether that through the state approval there, but I thought as a storage, it only needed one exit.
Okay, I don't know about that, but if it was intended as living space or office space, there would be other considerations for floor loading and also for truss loading, I think, right?
Correct, right, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, it would have been nice of you to label that on the plan. I believe it was storage. It's not intended for living space.
So can that be so noted if we give approval?
Yeah, it's not a residence, it's a hangar. Yeah. Correct.
Okay, well, it couldn't be used as office space then either. correct?
Right, not occupied space, correct.
Okay. I assume that the reason that Mr. Gallick wanted to move it from the previous excavated location to the city property was the access to utilities?
Yeah, two reasons, actually, you are correct. One of them, he does have approval to put water and sanitary on the other for just a small service bathroom on the main level. But his bigger reason was he has multiple planes, and so the reason he liked this spot, not only because of the city, but also because there's a lot of distance in front of the hangar. So if he has to get the back plane out, he can take the two planes out, whereas the other site, it's just whatever you call it, the tarmac area in front of it is just wide enough for the planes to go down to the other hangars. So he couldn't really have a plane out, and so that was his, I think probably his biggest motivation was that there is quite a bit of distance in front of that hangar, and it's sort of a dead end area. So if he has to pull a plane out and have it sitting outside the hangar while he's getting another one out, he doesn't have to worry about keeping the area clear for another passing plane.
Okay. I also assume that the city must be granting, or is it the airport commission that grants him he has a land lease, correct?
Yes, I'm assuming something like that. The hangar right to the west of us is the similar situation.
Okay.
It's on city property, the same thing, and they actually have, that hangar is actually a little bit bigger than this hangar, but I do know that they have just a utility bathroom in there, and I think that was part of his logic too. He wanted to hook up probably the same logic too. He probably wanted that area in front of the hangar for when they're pulling planes out.
Okay, but I guess my question is, does Mr. Gallick currently hold a signed land lease, and for what period of time with airport commission?
I think they're waiting on your approval before they do that. He does have another hangar that he has a land lease on, and then he actually leases space in the old Alexander Field hangar as well.
Okay, and Kyle, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, the situation with the land lease, are you aware of what's going on with that?
So that would primarily be something between the applicant and the airport commission or the airport. It's not necessarily a review criteria for the conditional use permit. So I do not have a direct answer in that regard.
All right, the conditional use permit would be conveyed with the sale of the building, correct?
Well, the conditional use permit typically runs with the land, but it's tied to the specific plan adopted under the approval. So, if this is the plan moving forward, the conditional use would be good a year from now. Let's say they didn't want to build now, they could build next year under this same set of plans. With that being said as well, this might be the appropriate time. I would add one condition to the approval if approved, and that be that staff have the authority to approve minor changes to the plan. So if they've got to move doors or they have to shrink the size or whatever it may be, that staff would have the authority to approve that, and it would not have to come back before the body.
Okay, but it would not include a change in use of the attic space then?
No, so if they wanted to use that for office, a dwelling, there would be additional approvals, not to mention code requirements for that use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anybody else with any further questions?
This is Shane. I understand not having, it as a occupied space for residential, but it's very normal in aircraft hangars to have, a little office space. So is there a reason why we would preclude that in this?
In the attics?
Yeah.
I think she's referring to the attic space. If you're on the main floor, I'm not sure. I don't know that he needs an office. He doesn't live that far away. I think his big thing is he wants the floor area clear of storing any materials so that he can move his planes around in there.
This is Susan. The reason I asked that is basically because the specs on attic space for joists on the floor are different than the specs on joists if you're going to load an office on the second floor.
I totally get that as a professional engineer, and I guess my thought is like from the planning commission, I mean, I don't understand why we would be worried about that since we also say that they need to apply to all other codes and ordinances, which the professional engineer would be held to.
Well,
I don't see why we would have a reason to hold back allowing them to have an office up there.
If I could interject, this is Kyle. So you're correct in that building code, applicable building code standards typically come into play based on the use. And I think there's a level of interpretation from a zoning standpoint. If there's an office, which is a desk that's, pushed up in the corner and somebody wants to sit there with their laptop, that's tied to, the airport type use, right? Somebody flies in, they put their hangar here, they want to jump on the computer. I think that could be associated with the use. But there are hangars in other airports that actually have designated office space that have people in there, 8 hours a day that come, they park at the hangar and serve as a secretary or other office staff pertaining to the hangar. One that comes to mind is like Sentry over in Stevens Point. They have a very large hangar with office space there. And that would have to be identified via the Plan Commission because there could be additional parking components for the staff that's housed within that office component in the hangar. But at this point, the applicant has not identified any sort of designated office. So the applicable parking codes and things of that nature for office would not apply in this instance.
Thank you. Anybody else have any further questions or comments? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Putting this hangar in that location they've got noted eliminates that access road from the north. That's gone now. Can't use it, and it also eliminates any view of the old hangar from the street. So now when you're driving here, you won't be able to see the old hangar at all, which was more historical, but it would be nice to be able to see it. That's all I have on it. And I can understand why he's putting the hangar here. Everything else out there is Grand Rapids. Unless you go to the north and follow their development plan for the future. So this is the only spot he can go to and get city. So that's all my comments.
Thank you. Any additional? Go ahead.
For those of us who can't see who's in the room, or could you identify who made that comment?
Oh, that's Mr. Hanson, Dan Hanson.
Oh, thank you.
I'm
You're
sorry.
welcome.
I should have said that, Susan. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to accept the plan, and do we need to add the minor changes that Kyle had suggested before? Does that need to be added to the motion, or is this already in here?
So for clarification, I did not include that in the original approval, so it would be something that I would recommend adding.
Okay, and we'll add any minor changes
To allow Kyle to make those
for
approvals?
staff to make changes. Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the plan along with allowing planning, community development staff to make approval of any small minor changes. Any further discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Our next item is Plan 20-0756 Connexxus Credit Union. They have a request for a site plan review to construct an off-site parking lot at 1960 7th Street South, parcel ID 3411760. Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the applicant is requesting an off-site parking lot approval. Within our zoning code, off-site parking lots are basically anything that's, not directly adjacent. So in this case, there's separation, and that's the road right-of-way that exists between the existing Connexxus building and this lot. So while it is under the same ownership, it is considered off-site in our zoning code. The off-site approval also requires Plan Commission review and approval. It does not require a public hearing, and it does not require notice to the surrounding property owners, but obviously this is a mechanism for those surrounding property owners to attend and provide any comment. With that being said, there was an initial set of plans that was provided, and there were a few concerns that staff had that I will run through momentarily, but there was a new set of plans, updated plans. I do have hard copies here if plan commissioners want them. They were also handed out, they were also emailed out earlier today, as well as a detailed sheet on the fence that's proposed along the rear of the property. And then today also the changes to the Connexxus Credit Union parking lot. Because these existing stalls are being proposed, they have to change the handicap parking around slightly, and they'll be putting that closer to the building on the existing location. With that being said, again, we review this in the staff report under the set of site plan review standards, at least those that are applicable in this situation. And a few things to note are the landscaping that's been proposed. The original plan did not meet the landscape requirements, the points that were required, and there were some missing points in addition to the buffer yard. So the applicant is using some existing vegetation on the west side of the site to meet some of the landscaping components. And the buffer yard is also being partially met with a vinyl fence at 6 feet in height. And there were still a few points that were required for that buffer yard. So it is my understanding that in the new plan submitted and emailed to you earlier, that those requirements have been met. I have yet to review that plan, so I would advise keeping that condition in there, that those points in that landscaping regarding the buffer yard and the parking lot landscaping be a condition of approval. In addition, a lighting plan was not provided, and given the close proximity to the neighbors, I think it's crucial in this instance to require one that meets the lighting requirements, foot candles at the property line, cutoff fixtures, things of that nature. And that condition, again, is added to the approval, which allows staff to approve such plan once submitted. Other than that, staff feels as though it's appropriate. The property is Zone B2. Again, it's directly adjacent to the existing use. There's a total of 38 parking stalls on site. Again, increasing the number of handicap stalls for the credit union, which will then be relocated to the credit union site. And overall, I think it's appropriate. I will also note that the last condition that staff's recommending is that the engineering department look closely at the stormwater, and they do on all projects, but to make sure that that's addressed. And we would recommend approval.
Questions? Go ahead, Mr. Bemke.
So Kyle, you were talking about the lighting part of the plan and a few other tweaks. If you review this and they do not meet the requirements, will this come back to this commission?
If they are, if the code allows for an exception that the plan commission can approve, then it would come back to this body. If no exception is, allowed under code, then they would have to meet those requirements, or the the development doesn't move forward. So if they submit a plan that doesn't meet the lighting requirements, I would ask them to resubmit an updated plan until they meet such requirements, unless there's a way that they can ask for an exemption or a waiver, but I'm not certain that they can do so for the lighting requirements. I think those are pretty standard.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, what are your wishes?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Ms. Feith,
Second from Burkhart?
second from Mr. Burkhart. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. I believe we're to our last item, which is adjournment. What are your wishes? We have a motion by Bemke. I'll second it. To adjourn, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much for attending this meeting.